This is not working at all. Maybe focus more on quality. You should tell the Kung Fu Panda 4 directors that instead of me. Oh yeah, I guess that's true. If y'all can shut up, that would be actually amazing so I can get back to working. Wait, if I'm Enchanted's inner voice, then who are you? I'm Enchanted's inner voice? How many voices do I have in there? You do not want to know. I really want money. I hope I make some money today. I just love money. I really money.
Shut up! I actually like making videos and quality content for people to enjoy. Just shut up! I'll make a Kung Fu Panda video, I swear!
I would just like to say that DreamWorks 1 year ago put out one of the best villains to any animated movie of all time. He was scary, he was well developed, and although he's not in the movie that much, you still feel like he's constantly there. Around 1 year later, I went to go see Kung Fu Panda 4, and after seeing Kung Fu Panda 1 again when it's re-released into theaters, I was like, oh my god, wait a minute, we might actually have one of the best animated movies of all time coming on our hands if DreamWorks puts in the care and attention that Kung Fu Panda needs into it. I would just like to say that this is not a review of the movie. I'm not going to be saying that this was a complete and utter disappointing movie. Oh, whoops, I accidentally said that. But I'm here to specifically talk about the villain of Kung Fu Panda, the chameleon. Now, coming from Kung Fu Panda 1, 2, and 3, no matter what your opinions are on each of these villains, they all are good villains. They're scary, they're menacing, and their presence seems to be very well written throughout the entirety of the movie. And although that you do not spend as much time with the villain as much, you do actually get to know a lot about them through Po and his connections with them. And if you haven't guessed it already, the chameleon has none of this. She's a very misused character and a complete misfire from the directors. Her concept is cool, and what she looks like is cool, and her backstory could have been cool, but just wasn't. They fumbled the ball with this one pretty badly, and there's a couple reasons for this. Let's talk about how she's barely in the movie. And let me be real, Death from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is not in the movie that much. There's probably a good 7 minutes of him being on screen actually. But the thing is that because of his whistle, you feel like he's a part of the movie much more because he's actually attached to Puss basically from the start of the movie to the end. And the funny thing about the chameleon is that she's probably in the movie for a total of 5 scenes. To be generous, honestly. She is barely in this movie, and they don't even take the time out of the entire movie, which is an hour 30 minutes, and they have also a side story for some reason that they definitely did not need because they can have put 10 more minutes at least with the chameleon, and they do not develop her whatsoever. There is no driving force with the chameleon. If I'm going to be completely honest, spoiler alert, I 100% knew that Shen was somewhat connected to the chameleon. And is it because the script was bad, or is it because Awkwafina is bad? And I say yes. But that's a little off topic. If we're taking the original Kung Fu Panda, we had a reason to be scared of Tai Lung, because Shifu and Oogway were scared of Tai Lung, and his return was a big event for them. Something that needed to spark change, and that's why Po was cast as the Dragon Warrior. As well, we get to see Tai Lung escape a prison, something that seems actually impossible to escape, especially with the amount of guards, but he pulls it off and actually proves that he is a villain to be afraid of. The thing about the chameleon is that there's a dinner party, probably 30 minutes into the movie, where we get introduced to her, that she's just hiding among them. Then she throws one of them down the stairs. And then, an hour later, we actually get to the plot of, oh, I have the staff, I'm gonna take Tai Lung's stuff. They did Tai Lung, Lord Shen, and Lord Kai dirty in this movie. There's no actual, driving force behind the chameleon either. She wants something, and to be completely honest, I just saw the movie, I have no idea what she wants. She just wants to be powerful, there is no other factor to that. If they were to add probably 10 minutes and get rid of the side plot with Po's dads, I think that this movie would probably be honestly much better. Taking the time to develop a villain to be afraid of is something that every single movie that a villain is in needs to have. If you outright say, that's a villain, be scared of him, audiences are not going to take the villains seriously or be afraid of them. There is absolutely no reason in all of Kung Fu Panda 4, even during the final battle, to be afraid of the chameleon. Whereas in Kung Fu Panda 2, we have every intention to be afraid of Lord Shen and view him as a villain because of what he did to Po and Po's family. If they were to do the chameleon justice with this movie, let's say, they needed to go much harder on pushing the fact that the chameleon is a bad person. Throughout the movie, she has intentions to do bad things, but the thing is, the children in the actual, underground facility place have done more evil things than she did throughout the entire movie. Especially when coming out of the movie, she accomplishes nothing. She takes the chi of Tai Lung and all these different characters that we have met before, but she gets overpowered and overthrown. Whereas, let's say Tai Lung was beaten by Po because Po actually outsmarted Tai Lung. It's not necessarily that Po was stronger than Tai Lung, but that Tai Lung thought that Po was stupid enough to just kind of let him have it, but Po put up a fight and was able to win, and in doing so, Po knew that they couldn't keep Tai Lung around because he was just going to break out of another prison, so he had to actually banish him. And yes, Tai Lung does banish the chameleon back into the spirit realm, but the thing is, it's not deserved compared to Tai Lung or anybody else. Overall, the chameleon is not a good example of how to create a villain, because nothing seems to be deserved of what the chameleon does. Yes, she has intentions, but she never acts on them throughout the entire movie. There's no reason to be afraid of her, especially when she throws one person down the stairs. And there's no reason to have a twist that, something like Shen is actually, somewhat not related to the chameleon, but as a past with the chameleon, when that twist is too predictable. A villain can't be on screen for too long. It can't be, oversaturated so then you see the flaws of the villain. You have to learn the flaws at the very end when the hero actually overpowers the villain. But when the villain is doing less and her guards are doing more, then there's nothing to really be afraid of the actual villain, and why not just be afraid of the guards? Viola Davis's voice is actually really good, I gotta say. I think that she just was done dirty with this role as well. It was a complete misfire to use the chameleon. And honestly, they could have pulled off the chameleon so well, and they just didn't. They could have added some more elements to the chameleon to make her more threatening, show that maybe she's enslaved the city that she owns, or something actually evil that she does throughout the entire movie to make the audience afraid of her. Give the audience a villain that deserves to be a villain, and not just a villain that is trying to be a villain but is just not succeeding. Now, I'm going to talk about how she can be fixed up, while still making it make sense with the rest of the movie. To start off, let's just scrap the opening scene of the movie, because, to be honest, it's just not a strong one. Tai Lung all of a sudden returning just doesn't make sense in this context. Because the chameleon is supposed to be able to mimic people, and that's her entire power, yes, but the immediate issue with the opening is how she's already Tai Lung and can already take advantage of his size, as she's able to throw that spinning wheel across the scene extremely easily, which, contrasts later to how the reason that she's too small is the reason she can't become a kung fu master. And to add on to that, why this opening scene doesn't work is how out of the blue all of it almost feels. Like we missed a crucial step. And yes, obviously later it wants to establish that this isn't really Tai Lung, but in fact it's the chameleon. But wouldn't it make more sense if they still were going to open up the movie with a big impact of seeing Tai Lung return? Wouldn't it make more sense that the movie starts with the chameleon taking Tai Lung's power first? I can tell not everyone will agree with this because Enchanted, she doesn't have Poe's staff yet, so she can't open up the spirit realm. But what if instead of her needing the staff, she uses her own sorcery that she already has and has been established to be where all of her power comes from? Could also open up a portal to the spirit realm, and I mean, it makes Poe's staff less of a plot device, so they can add another story of Poe trying to figure out how the staff works, so then it makes the final battle with the staff... Wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyways, the sorcery being the cause of the spirit realm opening could have been an idea that could have been executed well, since it allows for a bigger mystery of what her sorcery can really do and how powerful she can be. And we can establish an extremely powerful villain within the first couple minutes of the movie. And yes, this is kind of like rehashing Kung Fu Panda 3's opening, but there is a much different context between the two movies, so it'd still feel much different and still fresh. Next, we shouldn't be waiting to see the chameleon again, so how about we have a moment with Po, because, like, it is his movie, so he can have a cool action sequence, but after, we contrast his power with the chameleon's as she uses Tai Lung's identity to take down more Kung Fu masters, which makes her more powerful, since she can take their form and chi. After some Po learning he has to pass down his torch of being the Dragon Warrior, we can cut to the quote-unquote Tai Lung coming after Po instead of Po going after him, as this could lead to an outcome one of my favorite comments from the previous chameleon video made, where that they say that the chameleon could mentally mess with Po and Shifu by shape-shifting into interpretations of trauma they had from the past, which makes them vulnerable to fighting and allows her to steal the chi of Shifu, and attempts to get Po's, but Po is able to overpower the chameleon because Po in the second movie found inner peace, which is something that the writers of Kung Fu Panda 4 completely forgot about. Just like how they forgot about the Furious Five! So, this allows the chameleon to retreat for now, but gives us a glimpse of how powerful she can be. Blah blah blah, we'll skip a bit since she isn't in the movie for the entirety of it, but once we get to her castle and we find out Jen has been working for the chameleon, this is the perfect time to show that as Po has been trying to find her again, she has grown even stronger and has taken Lord Shen's chi from the spirit realm. This is also a good time to introduce that the chameleon can open the portal to the spirit realm, because let's say she needs to use the chi of other alive Kung Fu masters as a trade for spirits to return, and we can have another battle between them where the chameleon takes the form of Lord Shen. And due to the genocide that Lord Shen put on Po's people, obviously the power of Tai Lung and Lord Shen, this is a battle Po can't win even as he fights his hardest yet, until, you know, he figures out how to use his staff correctly. This can lead to the classic moment in Kung Fu Panda movies where Po gets his advice, and in this case, it's from his dad's. Now, we're finally here. The final battle. And what better than a YouTuber to describe how a better final battle would be? Now, overall, we have shown, not told, the audience that the chameleon is a powerful sorceress that can use her power to open up the spirit realm, steal the identity of people, and take the chi of powerful Kung Fu masters, including Shifu, to prove that Po will not have an easy fight. Especially if he's been trying to unlock the power of his staff for the entire adventure he's been on. Now, Po's only option to save all of China, but also the identities and powers of Shifu and other innocent Kung Fu masters, is to face the chameleon. This talk he had with his dads had revealed how he can use his staff, and in this script for an alternate version of Kung Fu Panda 4, he has to fully take the title of spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace, which was hinted at earlier in the movie, and this would mean that although the chameleon has become powerful in strength, Po has to become powerful in wit. And how this battle would play out is how the chameleon is fully aggressive and coming after Po the hardest she had throughout the entire movie. But Po must use his wit to not fight the chameleon, but to do what Oogway would do, and not fight but try and suppress his enemy, the way he did to Tai Lung and Kai, meaning this fight would be a hard-hitting battle where it would seem the chameleon has the upper hand the whole time, but in the end we realize Po has always had the upper hand, resisting the urge to fight, but to, in the end, unlock the power of the staff by being a pacifist and using the power of the staff to steal her sorcery and face the chameleon on her actual size. Now, the cool thing about this is how she could be the first villain in Kung Fu Panda movie history to be redeemed, but also could go the opposite way where Po has to realize that not everyone can be redeemed as he sends her to the spirit realm along with Tai Lung and Lord Shen. And obviously not Kai, because he got killed in the spirit realm in the last movie, so he shouldn't be in this movie at all. I would not make that mistake of not watching the original movies before making the fourth in a beloved franchise. What a silly mistake. And after sending them all back, this allows for the chi of all other Kung Fu masters and Shifu to be returned, and now that Po has become spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace, he can now train the next Dragon Warrior, which preferably isn't Jin, but if it has to be, then sure, fine, I guess. Now, Kung Fu Panda 4, I will admit, is not an awful movie, but for a Kung Fu Panda movie, it is extremely disappointing, especially for a fan of the franchise like I am. I've been here since the beginning, basically. And this video is something I hope will spread to a lot of people, and that more people can tweak this alternate version I have, because there is so much creativity out there, and to have all of you as a fan base means a lot, and that, I believe, that people like you who take it upon yourselves to fix things yourself is something that the next generation of Hollywood needs.
Hey, Editor Enchanted here really quickly. I got a new mic, so hopefully this sounds a lot better than the previous entire episode. But basically, I was thinking about how I missed something very crucial that also the director of Kung Fu Panda 4 forgot about, and that's a backstory for the chameleon and basically her motivations. So I thought I'd just basically add a little bit of that before I end this video. But anyways, let's just get onto it. I'm going to try and make it as fast as I possibly can. But I was thinking that because Kung Fu Panda in the past has talked about basically race and stuff like that, and how Lord Shen literally tried to wipe out all of the panda race, I was thinking maybe that there's a good chance to actually add a little bit of like race into this and make it a more of a meta message in this, as Viola Davis in real life is an African American woman, which would make sense is that she can be redeemed because in the past, let's say that she was denied the privilege of learning Kung Fu because she was a chameleon, and that's why her name is the Chameleon, as basically a power stance. That's what I'm thinking could actually work, and that redeeming her in the end of the movie would actually make a lot of sense. So, enough of me talking. Kung Fu Panda 4 has completely backed the rest of the trilogy into a wall that may be inescapable. And what is also inescapable is me asking for you to subscribe and like if you enjoyed, and comment any suggestions or for videos or any tips or criticism. Now, what do I mean by backed into a wall? Well, I am taking inspiration from a video I watched a while back about how Stranger Things Season 5 is backed into a wall, which I will link down below for you to go check it out yourself, as it is a very interesting video. But how does this apply to Kung Fu Panda 5? Well, I think it's very simple, on the surface being how Jen is now the Dragon Warrior. Jen being the Dragon Warrior sets the problem, as the next movie is going to have to do one of two things. Either the writers lazily say Jen learned all her Kung Fu off screen and that she's now the Dragon Warrior, without any explanation whatsoever, which is not a good thing when trying to develop a new character, or Jen will learn how to be the Dragon Warrior, but the problem is that they will practically be redoing the first movie again, which is not a great thing, as the fourth movie was basically redoing the second movie, but worse. As we take these two scenes of Tigress hugging Po compared to Jen hugging Po, and you can tell me which was executed better. And I think audiences are smart enough, even the smallest babies that were intended to be the target audience of Kung Fu Panda 4 would understand that redoing the same arc Po had, but with a character that we already, after a whole movie, don't really know or care for, is something that sets up a failure, as either way, Jen's arc can be taken and will probably not do the movie any good whatsoever, because the choices are either skip the entire part of the character arc or redo the character arc from the first movie, so, which in terms of writing, will not earn any praise for doing the same thing over again. Another really big problem set up in Kung Fu Panda 4 is that it's obvious that a certain director put comedy ahead of actual storytelling, which basically has ruined the potential of Po's staff, now being just the plot device whenever Po needs it. Po's staff is something that should hold a great power to it, and now that this staff can do anything whenever the movie demands of it, it makes it harder to keep it intertwined with the story, when it can do anything. But the problem is, Po never uses his staff, except against the people in the bar and to defeat the chameleon, but at no other time he thought of using it. So when Kung Fu Panda 5 comes around, the issue is now that Po's staff is just a plot device and nothing else. They're going to have to redo the entire storyline of Po's staff getting stolen in order for a villain to succeed, which already happened in 4, or they're gonna have to retcon it. But the problem is, why would Poe ever get rid of this all-powerful staff in terms of how a story would play out? As that, he wouldn't. Like, I mean, it's seriously that powerful. Why would he get rid of anything like that? But for the story's sake, they need to get rid of it, or then the staff will just be the same plot device as previously. And if they don't, then basically that makes the movie more lazy, just using the staff anytime they can't decide how Poe or Jen gets out of a situation. The staff is not something they can nerf because of how someone made a mistake of accepting the writer that said that they can use Poe's staff whenever they feel like doing their job, and now we are stuck with something that Jen can use even though she had only seen Poe use it once, and can just write their way out of any situation whenever. How is this a movie? Another thing is how expansive Kung Fu Panda 4 is, and I must say that maybe one of the only good things about this movie, since they really show a whole new side of China. But the problem is that the next movie is set the expectation to expand the world again, as each Kung Fu Panda movie has grown on the world bigger and bigger each movie, so now the writers need to find a way of expanding the world once again in an even bigger way, which can be really bogged down because of a movie like this. Sometimes because either they can spend too much time on showing every part of this new world, or they spend too little, and then the world seems hollow and unimportant and usually underdeveloped completely, to the point where new things aren't exciting to do. But then you might ask, why not just have them stay at the Jade Palace the whole time, fighting their battles and stuff? And you should probably understand, as I'm saying that the movie will get boring fast, as we see this place every single movie, and if we were to spend another hour 30 in the Jade Palace the whole time, then nothing becomes unique anymore, and having a fifth movie and a second trilogy of a beloved DreamWorks franchise not being its own thing compared to the others will make the movie boring and overdrawn and useless and more of a cash grab than 4. Finally, as one more point is that after 4, I believe that the people behind these movies have lost their touch with what made the first 3 movies so good, as it had been an entire decade since the 3rd movie, and bringing in people that don't understand the point of Kung Fu Panda, or I guess how to make movies that aren't obviously cash grabs, is not a great move when trying to handle something like this. And sure, they make you money, but they deteriorate your content, as I don't think it's a coincidence that Kung Fu Panda 4 is the movie that has made the least in the franchise. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I know it's a 4th movie, but after 10 years of waiting, I believe that there are people out there who love Kung Fu Panda, did not want to come back to see 4 because of what they heard. And to add some evidence towards that, I know people that love Kung Fu Panda, but after seeing the trailer or hearing what people have to say about it, they completely lost interest and treated Kung Fu Panda 4 as a reject. The major thing I have heard about Kung Fu Panda 4, and something I completely agree with, is that the movie is disappointing in every way imaginable, and is something that feels really out of place compared to the first 3 movies. Don't get me wrong, when I first saw the teaser poster for Kung Fu Panda 4, I felt hyped. I felt like I was a kid again, going to see one of my favorite franchises again on the big screen. But instead of treating the movie with respect, they ruined it, and ruined the ending given to us in Kung Fu Panda 3, by disregarding Poe's arc and his traumas and villains he fought along the way, and turned Kung Fu Panda 4 into a peach tree that was too young and underdeveloped to give the audience any peaches of entertainment that can rival the original trilogy. The fact there is more of a chance Kung Fu Panda 5 will be even worse than 4, than trying to match the quality of the first 3 movies, is something that makes me utterly sad. And although I am definitely not the first person to make this joke, I fully mean it when I say I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm Enchanted.